ליהודים הייתה אורה, ושמחה וששון ויקר. ליהודים הייתה אורה, ושמחה וששון ויקר, ושמחה וששון ויקר. ליהודים הייתה ושמחה וששון ויקר, ושמחה וששון ויקר. ליהודים הייתה אורה, ושמחה וששון ויקר. פרס ישועות עשו בשם אדוני יקרא, סברים מרנן ורבנן ורבותיי, די 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 ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, מיני בשמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, המבדיל בין קודש לחול, בין אור לחושך, בין ישראל לעמים, בין יום השביעי לששת ימי המעשה. די 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 ברוך אתה אדוני המבדיל בין קודש לחול. אמן.
Throughout the evening, I will give you 1-minute glimpses of the long journey my dear father-in-law took throughout his life.
Come, guys. Please.
We almost cancelled our Back to the Roots trip in September of 1996, the time around this season, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Our first stop was where Rafi's father was born, Rodna. Rodna is a tiny village with a large ancient cemetery and one Jew left who did his own shechting. We roamed through the gravestones, climbing a rather large hill, a high hill, like game bugs, to the right and left, searching for gravestones which have anything to do with my father-in-law's family. Pictures were taken on this trip, and they will slide by you throughout the evening. Our first speaker for this evening will be our Rabbi, Rabbi Pini Danner, who together with his always energetic wife Sabine brought energy to our shul. Rabbi Donna, thank you again for taking care of our family during the Shiva. We appreciated it very, very much. Rabbi Donna.
Thank you so much, Rivka, Rafi, as usual. The setting at the Nissel home is spectacular. I don't think I've ever been to a Schloshim quite like this. We read this morning about a particular mitzvah in the Torah where you have to take the first fruits of the farm and you take those fruits to Jerusalem and you present them to the priest and you give them to the priest, but that's not enough. You have to utter words with which we are all very familiar because we say it every year at Seder night. Arami Oved Avi, Vayered Mitzrayim. We go through a sort of a potted history of the Jews to bring us to the point where we, a member of the Jewish faith, presents our first fruits to the Kohen. There is a very famous medrash, and the medrash teaches us that because of three reishises, the world was created. Because of Torah, because of the Jewish people, and because of Bikurim. Bishvil Reishis Nivra Ha'olam, because it's called Reishis, the very first fruit, that is why the world was created. Now it seems puzzling that this particular mitzvah would have been included. Why would you include the mitzvah of Bikurim as one of the reasons that underpin the very creation of the whole universe? It doesn't seem to make any sense. And the commentators tell us that the reason why we were created was that we should exhibit a particular characteristic called Hakarat HaTov. And the absolute epitome of Hakarat HaTov is to take the very first fruit, the most exciting fruit from your orchard or from your farm, and instead of celebrating that moment of the first birth of the fruit of your labor, literally, and taking it into your home and eating it, you stick it aside and you take it to Jerusalem as a demonstration of your appreciation to God for having given you the benefit of the land. For that alone, the commentators tell us, for that demonstration of Hakarat HaTov, it is worth having created the entire universe. The Sifri adds something very strange. It says, V'omarta Ilav, you should say to the Kohen, and he says on these words, V'omarta Ilav, that means that you shouldn't be a kofui toiv. You shouldn't be someone who denies the goodness that comes to you. And one of the commentators asks, surely it should be expressed in a positive way. Why is the Sifri expressing Hakarat HaTov in a negative, telling us that it shouldn't be a denial of good, it should have told us it should be Hakarat HaTov. And the answer is that the brief sentences that we say when we bring the fruit to the Kohen are the very minimum that is expected of us to show our gratitude and appreciation for that which God has given us, for that which we have received. And indeed, Hakarat HaTov is one of the things that underpins the very creation of the universe. There is no greater expression of Hakarat HaTov than that which we do for a departed beloved. There is no greater expression of thanks and appreciation than that which we can show to those who have given us everything that we have and everything that we possess and have made us achieve everything that we have achieved. When we show our appreciation through the study of Torah, through the practice of Judaism, through the expression of goodness, we are paying true Hakarat HaTov to our parents and to those who have departed, to whom we owe so much. And I'd just like to say that tonight we sit at this spectacular event. We sit tonight at a Shloshim Su'udah like none we've ever seen. And I truly believe that this expression of Hakarat HaTov is an absolute description and definition of our host, Rafi Nissel, for whom everything is expressed in terms of appreciation for his father, for his mother, and for those who came before him. So tonight we are sitting at an event which represents the epitome of that which underpins the very creation of our universe. I'd like to thank, on my own behalf and for Sabine and for the entire Young Israel of North Beverly Hills community, both Rafi and Rivka, for being examples, exemplary models for our community of how to behave as Jews, as children, as parents, and as good people. Thank you. Shavua Tov.
Thank you, Rabbi Donna. I call him Rabbi Donna. This is the European way, but I know the family from at home, and they were called the Donna family. Here they became the Dana family. Anyway, we are continuing on our trip. We are now stopping in the Vishua. The Kaufler family being very familiar with this area of Romania, and it's really Romania, because it was the Romanian part of Romania, not the song which my father loved. Anyway, so we walked down a major street, the only major street in the Vishua, and my father-in-law was leading the way with my sister-in-law Rita, who's here tonight with her two children, Yoni and Esther. Welcome. The two children of Rita were little, maybe 3 and 2 or 2 and 4 years old. And I don't think they knew the importance of this trip. But we just took them along anyway, and they were going through the water, the rain puddles, and splashing through the mud, following my father-in-law, where he knew was the home of his parents. He stopped in front of a house which looked more like a school than the old home of my father-in-law's parents, but he said determinedly, "This is where my parents' home stood." And we believed him. We continued walking behind Abba because he was determined now to find the ancient shul where he went Shabbos morning and Friday nights with his father. He stopped in front of a dilapidated building which didn't look like anything and said, "This is the shul." And we looked up, and in the steeple of the roof was the imprint of a Magen David. And we knew again, Abba was right. This was his parents' shul. Our next speaker is our friend, Rabbi Kalinsky. For a long time served as our rabbi and leader in the in-between years. He did it with warmth and patience, and we at Young Israel will always be grateful for his guidance. Rabbi Kalinsky, please.
know I speak on behalf of everyone this evening as we offer our collective and individual nechama to Rafi, to our dear friend Rafi, as he completes the Schloshim for his beloved father, Reb Yechiel ben Harav Chaim Menachem. As Rabbi Dunner just said, Rafi and Rivka are amazing role models for all of us on so many levels. In the area of Kibbud Av Va'em, of Ahavas Yisrael, of Eretz Yisrael, Medinat Yisrael, Shmirat HaMitzvot, and Kavod HaTorah. It really is no surprise because it's part of their makeup, it's their DNA, it's that which they received from their beloved parents of blessed memory. I had the pleasure for a number of years of having Mr. Nissel as my seatmate at Young Israel of North Beverly Hills. As he was wheeled in for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, he sat directly in front of me. And I marvel that he davened the entire davening by heart. He knew the machzor. He knew it cold. He didn't need to be told what place it was. And so in a way, I feel a bit connected this evening as Sandy and I sat with Rivka and Rafi on their veranda in Yerushalayim some 5 weeks ago, as it was touch and go from Mr. Nissel, and Rafi was shuttling back and forth between Israel and Europe. And so tonight is an important transition period. There's Shiva, there's Shloshim, and then Yud Beis Chodesh. There's a transition. As we've all grown to see Rafi walking around with a beard, and he said tomorrow he'll be shaving. As a sign of one's coming back to reality, to coming back to community. But I want to transport us, if I could, for a few moments to where we will be together as a community 3 weeks from tonight. I'm sure most people have not thought that far in advance. I'm sure many of the women have already been cooking for Rosh Hashanah and Sukkot, etc. But if you've not looked at the calendar, do you know where we're going to be 3 weeks from tonight at this moment? It'll be Motzei Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is on Shabbat this year. And we will be returning from shul to our homes. Many of you will have heard Rafi's final Tekiah Gedola, the Tekiah Gedola that goes on and on and on. And it'll be following a day of introspection, of fasting, of prayer, and asking God for forgiveness. Chazal tell us that there's a beautiful verse in the book of Koheles that we read on Sukkot that has a direct application to Yom Kippur's conclusion. As we read in chapter 9, verse 7, Lech echol b'simcha lachmecha u'shasei b'lev tov yenecha ki chavar ratzah Elokim et ma'asecha. Simply translated, go eat your bread with joy, drink your wine with a glad heart, for God has already approved of your deeds. Very strange verse from Koheles, to which the rabbis suggest has its application to us at the conclusion of Yom Kippur. Go eat your bread with joy, for God has already approved of our deeds. The Sfas Emes, the Ger Rebbe, wrote over 100 years ago a question that puzzles us all. What does it mean that God has already approved of our actions and our deeds? We just heard shofar. Yom Kippur is over. Is there an immediate moment where God forgives us, or is it a process? makes no sense according to Sfas Emes. How did God already accept our deeds? The Sfas Emes answers in a beautiful way. That because when we leave shul at the end of Yom HaKippurim, we don't go home specifically to eat and to drink. What is the first thing we do as Jews? We begin preparing for Sukkot. We put the schach on. Before we even make hamotzi, the first thing we're supposed to do is to begin thinking about the next yontif. And because Am Yisrael leaves Yom Kippur and directly enters into the joyous service to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with singing and with dancing, so God looks upon our actions on Motzei Yom Kippur and sees that we're already there to continue to serve Him with joy. It's not a disconnect at the end of Yom Kippur, it's a continuation. In that way, God forgives us and enables us to serve Him in the year ahead. Lech echol b'simcha lachmecha, v'shasei v'lev tov yenecha. I believe, Rafi, that your father, Rabbi Yechiel, your father's life, his legacy mirrors this idea, this image. His whole life was built upon his avodas Hashem, to serve Hashem. He was so fortunate to have arichas yomim v'shonim. That's his picture. To be with his loved one, with his family, with his children, with his grandchildren, and his great-grandchildren. His illness in his later years slowed him down considerably. But that gave you, Rafi, and Rivka, and your children, and Rita, an added opportunity to do kibbut av aim beyond anyone's imagination. With your father's death, the kavod, the respect that you gave him in life, continues. For the Gemara tells us in Kiddushin, Mechabdo b'chayav, mechabdo b'moso. Tonight's Shloshim, as I said earlier, is not a culmination. It's a transition. You have a year, you have 11 months ahead of you, Rafi, 10 months of saying Kaddish, where each and every time you come to shul, you will focus on the wonderful, the amazing life that you had with your father. And it'll bring you a great deal of comfort as you mourn his loss, but at the same time, as you celebrate the wonderful legacy that he leaves for your mishpacha.
Thank you, Rabbi Kalinsky. By now, we are moving on. The Nissel family is moving on to Arad, another part of Romania. And this is where he stayed throughout the war with his family. And because he was, like I said before, in the Romanian part, the family was not deported, and he did heroic actions by saving a lot of Jews who fled from the Hungarian part of Romania. We will continue with the program with our chazan, a tenor, music director, Nati Baram, who in the short period of time has changed the course of a vessel, our shul. Nati, why don't you honor us with the first song?
This is a very special song, the Avot HaNegev. Rafi told me that his father loved this song as a 48 fighter. It's about the war of independence. So just listen.
Avot HaNegev mitnotzet satan בערבות הנגב איש מגן נפל, לא נשם הנער ונדם הלב את בלורית השר רוח תרטף הלומת עצרות ויגון נורא זקנה ניצבת ונושאת דברה הדמעה ניגרת מעיני אמך בכדור עופרת ויפלח לבך הדמעה ניגרת מעיני אמך בכדור עופרת ויפלח לבך מול שודד ומלך צמא דמים עוין תניני ואהיה לך אנוכי לבן בערבות הנגב ולחץ ידיו אם תרצו חבריה אין זו אגדה בערבות הנגב ולחץ ידיו אם תרצו חבריה אין זו
אגדה. Beautiful. After the war, Abba had a desire to study at the university in Budapest. He miraculously produced a document stating he graduated high school. He studied in Budapest for 2 years. And I remember when I joined the family, he rambled down chemical formulas, which he remembered from his student years. He got married in Romania and married my mother-in-law, may she rest in peace, Esther Malka. And it was Aliyah time, the year 1948. They were on a ship to Palestine. A month later, my dear husband was born. His arrival was celebrated with bombs and fireworks. The State of Israel and Rafi were created at the same time. That would explain his love for our homeland. My father-in-law joined the army until his injury in Ramat Rachel on the outskirts of Yerushalayim. Many times my father-in-law came to Los Angeles. He loved Rabbi Schusterman's Stiebel on Foothill Road. We wouldn't move into our home in 1979 if we wouldn't know there's a shul close by. Both of our fathers, my father too, loved and adored you, Rabbi Schusterman, who foremost of all means to be a warm human being, a real mensch. Rabbi Schusterman, may I ask you to come and say a few words?
Which one? A good Tavach, Shavua Tov. The time of Shloshim is the time the neshama of the deceased becomes elevated to a greater place in Gan Eden. We always begin with the Dvar Torah, which is connected to that point. Today in the Hasidic world was Chai Elul, the 18th of Elul, which is the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov who founded Chassidus, and the Alter Rebbe who founded Chabad Chassidus. And the Baal Shem Tov said on the pasuk of today's parsha, "V'haya kisavei," "V'haya kisavei ala aretz." It will be when you will come to the land, Asher Hashem Elokecha Neisin Loch. The land that God gives you refers to the neshama, the soul of a Jew, coming into the world, into the land and the body that God chose for every individual. And the Torah says, V'yirishta, you need to inherit it. V'yoshavta bo, you need to dwell in it. It has to become your world. And the Torah says, what must you do? Lokachta mereshis pri ha'adam, as was mentioned earlier. You have to take the first fruits, the best of your life, and put it into a basket. V'holachta l'mokem, you should go to the place asher yivchar Hashem Elokecha, that God chose. And our sages ask, why doesn't it say Yerushalayim? Why doesn't it say the land of the city of Yerushalayim? Why does it constantly in Torah say the land that God chose for you? And the Meralmi Prag's brother answers it by saying that a Jew, no matter where they go, you should know that this is the place that God chose for you. And what is the purpose of your trip? L'shakein shmo sham, to rest and to reveal the name of God wherever you go. I was very fortunate to know Rabbi Yechiel for many, many years. And he used to tell us his life story many times. And he lived in many, many places. But the common denominator of all the places that he lived, wherever God destined for him to go, what he did was l'shakein shemay sham, to bring Judaism, to live a life like a Yid. The America didn't change his European style of Yiddishkeit. When he davened for the Yomid, which he loved doing, he was a wonderful Baal Tefillah. You saw this as a Jew that lived with God, lived with Yiddishkeit, lived with Judaism. And he had a very, very difficult life. He lived through the Holocaust. In 1948, he was wounded fighting for Eretz Yisrael. This is a Jew that no matter where he went, did l'shakein shemay sham. He brought godliness and kedusha and holiness to every place that he lived. And we need to learn a lesson from this, because whatever happens in the world is just not a historical fact. This is a lesson for us to emulate his lifestyle. And therefore you see it in his children and his grandchildren. The type of love for Yiddishkeit, the love for Eretz Yisrael, the love for godliness, that no matter where they go, they become active in a Jewish community. We need to realize that wherever God places us, whether it's on a day journey, a year journey, a lifelong journey, the fact that God chose that we are at this particular place, at this particular time, is for us to do one thing and one thing only. L'shakein shmo sham, to bring godliness and holiness into that place. This is the life that Rabbi Yechiel ben Reb Chaim Menachem lived. And this is what we need to emulate and to copy. So I want to wish, as the neshama becomes elevated to a higher level, it's brought down in Svarim that the neshama, when it goes to a higher level in Gan Eden, takes with it the entire family and all those that are close to him. Hashem should help us that he should be a good better. He should be a good advocate for the family, for the friends, for all of us that are here tonight. And very soon, as we come to the concept of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we come to the concept of Shemitah, the sabbatical year this year. And the Gemara speaks about the coming of Mashiach in the sabbatical year and post-sabbatical year. Very soon we should be reunited with Rafi and his wife, or Rafi Yechiel, to be united together with his father and mother, and Rivka with her father and mother. We will go back to Eretz Yisrael with the coming of Mashiach. Shavua Tov HaGutavach.
Thank you, Rabbi Schuster. Very nice. Mysterious things were revealed during the Shiva in Israel. Lots of Rafi's cousins were present on a Motzei Shabbos during the Shiva, and stories were told about Abba being involved secretly and working for the Mossad, not just in Israel, but then also later on in Europe. When Rafi grew up, my father-in-law realized very early that his son has a brilliant mind. As a teenager already, he became a successful businessman. And I heard my father-in-law say this one sentence many times. Rafi, you're using your mind for business. Why don't you use it also for the Gemara? He rekindled his Gemara knowledge with Rabbi Tendler, who succeeded in leading him to the Stender, rekindling his many years in yeshiva teachings. And with the Daf Yomi, it's now part of Rafi's life, thanks to you, Rabbi Tendler. Rabbi Tendler, please, say a few words. I can't see.
Neither can I, so it's okay. I'm honored that Rafi and Rivka asked me to say a few words tonight. Rafi did tell me to keep it very short. I wasn't sure what short was. I thought that maybe the length of Havdalah would be short. Then I came here and I realized how short Havdalah could be. The Shnei Luchais Abris, the two Luchais received on Har Sinai, 5 on each side. Normally we associate the first 5 with mitzvahs Beinodam Lamakam, between man and God, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, you have Shabbos, and then the second Luchais are Beinodam Lachabeiro, between man and man. The question is number 5, which is on the first book, which is Kabed Esavicha V'Yasimecha. You would think that that is a Bein Adam L'Chavero, between man and fellow man mitzvah. What is it doing with Bein Adam L'Moka? The answer it is that it really is more Bein Adam L'Moka between man and God than it is Bein Adam L'Chavero. Because Hashem created all of us. But the way He did it is through our parents. He made our parents the messengers for making us who we are, our DNA, our nurture. So much of who we are and what we are, our very essence, came through our parents, meaning that our parents were the messengers of Hashem through which He gave us life. The Hebrew word for messenger is malach. So our parents are malachim of Hashem to give us life. The essence of the mitzvah of Kabed Esavicha V'Yasimecha is to recognize and respect our parents, not only because they changed our diapers and they stayed up all night with us with earaches and they bought us a bicycle, but it's because they are Malachi Hashem. And Chazal tell us that the mitzvah of Kabed Esavicha V'Yasimecha is a springboard to recognizing Hashem. If I could look at my father and my mother as an agent of the Creator, then I could go to the next step of thinking there's a Creator. And I honor my father, I honor my mother, I honor my Creator. We know the halacha is when somebody unfortunately loses a relative, there's a 30-day mourning period. And then the mourning period is officially over. However, with a parent, it's extended up to 12 months. Perhaps one of the reasons why it's extended up to 12 months, and it's clearly based on the mitzvah of kibbut av v'eim, is because we suddenly, precipitously, lost this connection, this springboard, this avenue to connect our thoughts to our Kadosh Baruch Hu through His malachim. And we have to be let down easy because of that. So we need another 12 months of transition so that we can focus on our commitment to our Creator without, unfortunately, having our parents, and we cannot have them for all of our lives. I thought it was appropriate to speak about Kibbut Av V'Eim tonight because I did not have the schus to know the nifter, because I came into the family late. But I did see the phenomenal Kibbut Av V'Eim that Rafi and Rivka both performed. And I felt it was appropriate to mention the Kibbut Av V'Eim tonight. May the Neshama have an aliyah.
Nati, can we ask for the second song, please?
This song I had the zchut and the privilege to sing to Yechiel many times here in the Bet Knesset, שיבנה בית המקדש.
יהי רצון מלפניך, עד השם אלוקינו, ואלוקי אבותינו, שיבנה בית המקדש במהרה בימינו, ותן חלקנו בתורתך. שיבנה בית המקדש במהרה בימינו, יהי רצון מלפניך, רצון יהי. שיבנה בית המקדש במהרה בימינו, ותן חלקנו בתורתך. שיבנה בית המקדש במהרה בימינו, ותן חלקנו בתורתך. שיבנה בית המקדש במהרה בימינו, יהי רצון מלפניך, רצון יהי. יהי רצון, יהי רצון, שיבנה בית המקדש, שיבנה בית המקדש. אוי במהרה בימינו, ותן חלקנו בתורתך, 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 ושם נעבודך, ושם נעבודך בעירה, כי מעולה ובשנים כדרוניות. כי מעולה ובשנים כדרוניות. Together. שבנה בית המקדש במהרה בימינו, ונבטל בתורתך. שבנה בית המקדש במהרה בימינו, יהי רצון לפניך, רצון יהי. שבנה בית המקדש במהרה בימינו, ותן חלקנו בתורתך. שבנה בית המקדש במהרה בימינו, ותן חלקנו בתורתך. שבנה בית המקדש במהרה בימינו, כי מעולם ושנים כדרוניות.
Okay. Our dear friends, Diana and Sam Hurt, cannot be here tonight, as you all know. Unfortunately, Diana was involved in a robbery, and it's very hard for her to walk, and she's here on video. We used to walk every Shabbos afternoon, when the children were small, up the hill to 420 Doheny Road, to have Shaleshidas with them, with the Hurt family, and many times my father-in-law made the hike up to Doheny Road, and Diana and Sam had the good fortune to get to know Abba very well. Here is Diana.
I would like to thank you, Rita and Rafi, for allowing me to say a few words about your dear father, Eugene, alav shalom. The first time that we met Eugene was many years ago. It was when Ari, our son, and Svika were in nursery school. And there were many visits from your father and your mother that came to California. When they would come, it was always a pleasure to talk to your father. He was always include us in many conversations. But what really holds into my mind is how he would talk to my 6 children. Whenever he would see the children, he would always include them in the conversation. And to me, that was really just very, very meaningful. Rita, you were the princess in your father's eyes. Even as a little girl, he just would do anything for you in every way. Your mother and your father treated you as a princess, and I'm sure it continued on throughout your adult life. Rafi, your father was definitely your mentor. He taught you how to be such a dedicated person to Israel, how to come to California. He gave you the courage as a young man, you and Rivka, to come to California and to seek out the opportunities here in California for the two of you as a family. He gave you the knowledge of business. He gave you the knowledge of giving tzedakah. He gave you also a very, very special thing of not to speak Lashon Hara. In all the years that we've known you, Rafi, we've never heard a word of Lashon Hara from you, and I have to say that that goes back to your father. The other thing that we admire is that your father gave you the ability to lane whatever parsha was going to be. And that was a big gift that you have from your father. Now, we also remember many times how your father would daven for the Amid and how he enjoyed davening for the Amid. He definitely had a special way of davening that his voice we all remember so clearly. In fact, Lance, our son, was in Europe, I don't remember exactly when, and he said he was in one of the shuls in Europe, and suddenly he's sitting in the shul and he hears this voice in the background, and he said, "Oh my goodness, it sounds like Eugene Nissel." And he turns around, and sure enough, it was Eugene. He heard that special davening and that special voice. And now you are left with such a wonderful father to remember, and we all feel his loss here in California. And now, hopefully, your father is in Shemayim, and he's davening with the angels up in Shemayim. And we wish you our very best, and I thank you again for allowing me to speak from my heart about your father. Thank you.
Thank you. In 1958, Abba moved his small family to Antwerp to start a new business, the diamond business. He ventured into this business with his brother, who lived already there after the war, his older brother Boni. Hashem blessed us with 3 wonderful sons, Kenai Hara. Each one a gem in their own right, each one unique. Erez, the one who chose, with utter dedication, Torah life, will speak to us via Skype from Lakewood.
Okay. Shavua Tov and good Vach. It's an honor of me to speak tonight at the Schloshim of my grandfather. I'm just going to speak a couple minutes to explain what he meant to us and what we can learn from him, in my opinion. First of all, he was the Melech of our Mishpacha. And there's 2 points of a Melech. A Melech has a crown, which means that he's above everyone else. He's higher than the rest of the nation. And in that sense, Saba was our king, in that he led by example, not by force at all, but everyone just wanted to follow him in that sense. And on the other hand, a Melech is part of the nation.